So back again with another comparison video and a game of my childhood, Duke Nukem. And today I'm taking a look at the PS4 version versus the 64 version. The reason I'm taking a look at the PS4 version is because I think it's one of the best remasters I've seen in quite some time, while also keeping the integrity of the original game intact. Recording the footage, however, for the N64 was problematic to say the least due to the absolutely disastrous controls. They just don't hold up well anymore. Like, it came to the stage where I just had to stop recording and look for alternate solutions. I'd rather put my head through a fucking door, to be honest. But anyway, doing some research, I actually found a source port for the original Nintendo 64 grip file. So essentially, it takes the ROM file and it pretty much ports it over to a PC port. So structurally, level design, everything, sound, everything is identical to that of the N64, except you can control it with a keyboard and mouse. So I'll share some links with that down in the description. As for trying to level the playing field here with the actual two different versions, what I've done is I've enabled Legacy Duke Talk here. I've put on the classic HUD on the PS4 version. And then in comparison to that, when we look at the Duke 64 settings, I pretty much left everything untouched, bar put back some classic texture mode, and we're going to play the game on LA Meltdown. I'm going to cover the first two levels, and it's going to be the Let's Rock difficulty. Now, some interesting history on Duke Nukem 3D. It's actually the third game in the series, and Duke Nukem 64 actually fills in that gap of information. Now, in the original Duke Nukem 3D manual, it actually gives some background to Dr. Proton essentially being the arch nemesis of 1 and 2. And with the Duke Nukem 64 version, it essentially adds that lore to the actual game rather than having to read it through the manual. So I thought that's just an interesting piece of information to share. So moving into the comparisons themselves, I picked the first two levels because honestly, they're the most iconic levels in Duke Nukem 3D. So you can see in the original game, the pre-rendered backgrounds versus Duke 64's polygon backgrounds. Everything is kind of much darker, more moodier in the original game. Everything kind of seems a little bit more grey on the Nintendo 64. So from a ratings perspective, both of these games got an 18 release on the PC originally and the Nintendo 64. But everybody knows the Nintendo 64 version is kind of a stripped back version. And they've made so much modification to level structure, sexual references pretty much being removed. And some very strange omissions here, like one sign says innocent, the other says guilty. And doing some research on that, there's no real explainable reason for it. What is an absolute certainty is Nintendo wanted any sexual references removed from the Duke Nukem 64 version. So you can clearly see here, even at the start of the very, very first level, when you're looking for the secret area to get the steroids, but on the Nintendo 64, they're called Vitamin X. But you can see, here's a poster with a babe on the front of it, and then when you look at the Nintendo 64 version, it just looks like a kung fu guy or something like that. So again, it seems to be everything from a sexual nature was tackled in this game and removed from the N64 version. So you can even see here on the PC version, Duke Nukem 3D, Attack at the Bleach Blonde Biker Bimbos is essentially replaced with Attack on Uranus. However, from a gameplay perspective and destructibility perspective, the weapons, obviously they have their differences because it's a grenade launcher in the N64, it's an RPG in the PC one, but for argument's sake, you can blow open the same door here, and the majority of the secrets are found in the same locations, unless we're looking at some of the levels that have some complete restructure to them in certain aspects. I'll cover that really in the next level. The side-by-side comparison here of the cinema section, pretty much identical and a like-for-like scenario here between PC and N64 version. Similarly goes for the bar, except obviously again the posters here in the original Duke 3D, it's obviously references to kind of some made up porno movies or whatever, and then when you go to the N64 version, they really kind of replace those posters with kind of maybe references to some action movies or something like that. So again, you can see those changes are pretty much throughout the entirety of the game, and especially when we get to Red Light District, which is the next level. Now, as we move into the toilet here, it does look the N64 version has kind of expanded on the toilet area somewhat. It's like there's two areas now instead of just the one toilet. And I just do a kind of video here as we move in through kind of a secret area here to find one of the kind of babes which has been essentially captured by the aliens. But you can kind of see as well, one of them is covered up on the N64 version, whereas the other one is not covered up. And interesting enough, you can save the babe in the N64 version. Basically, in the Duke Nukem 3D version, the only way to save her is to kill her. And again, even when we turn on the cinema screen here, you can see the differences. Obviously, this is supposed to be some kind of a porno up on the TV screen, and then that's replaced with like a kind of an alien movie or something like that. So another change within that level, all kind of pointing to those sexual references that Nintendo wanted removed. And then when we get into Red Light District, this is kind of even bigger changes here. They didn't even call the level Red Light District, it's called Gun Crazy in the N64 version. And the strip club has essentially been completely replaced with Duke Burger, which is essentially a reference to McDonald's or something like that. So there's actually a completely different area in the game here. It's quite small, but it's still there, and that's been added, and based around the structure of kind of removing the majority of the strip club from the game. Even when we walk in here, it's a porno mag shop basically, and that's been replaced with a gun shop. There's a kind of irony to this type of censorship from Nintendo. Like, what's worse, a porn shop or a gun shop? You probably say a gun shop, to be honest. So I found that kind of decision really strange, to be honest. Next section before hitting the strip club. This is a kind of an iconic scene where you have to blow up one of the buildings. You can see on Duke Nukem 3D the sprite work on the explosions are as they are. They're kind of flat explosions. They're all the same. I do really like the explosion work in Duke Nukem 64 because they made them polygons, and the explosions look way better, I think, on the Nintendo 64, to be honest. And even just to showcase of the weapons here, I actually prefer the dual Uzis in comparison to the Ripper gun, but I do like the Ripper gun's sound. It's very, very iconic and memorable. Moving into the bar and on towards the strip club in Duke 3D, you can see that it's a full open bar here, and when you collect the key card, it activates the 3 pig cops that come and attack you. That same action still happens, but it actually happens in Duke Burger on Duke 64, because as I mentioned earlier, the bar and pretty much anything got to do with the strip club or anything, and has completely been replaced with this kind of burger joint essentially. As I mentioned earlier in the start of this level coverage, it actually joins up to the map. You can actually go through a door here, and it brings you out to the very, very start of Red Light District / Gun Crazy, as it's called, on the N64. So yeah, that is kind of fairly major restructure of this level in essence. As we move towards the strip club itself now, this whole section here where the pig cops drop down, that actually happens again as well on Duke 64, but it happens kind of in a different scenario. It kind of happens in a little office space, and when you open and use the red key card, you're going into the strip club obviously in Duke 3D, and you can, you know, throw cash at the babes and they'll actually open up their top and all that.
You wanna dance? Shake it, baby.
I'd say Jimmy Two Pumps will get the owl horn looking at that. But yeah, back to N64, as you open it up here, it's pretty much just a storage area for Duke Burger essentially, so the strip club has completely been removed. So yeah, that's kind of a flavour of the restructure on N64. Obviously the weapons being different, some of the pre-rendered backgrounds being removed, a lot more polygons used in the N64 version, to be fair, but overall the Duke 3D Anniversary Edition to me is a fantastic and probably the best way to play Duke Nukem, to be honest, in 2022. Guys, if you like what you see, please make sure you like, subscribe, please share what you think about my video in the comments, let me know if you're a Duke Nukem fan, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.